What is up, guys? Today we're gonna basically do some setup shit. It's not gonna seem like major accomplishments, but it's all stuff that needs to be done, and it's kind of good organizational setup work that'll help us succeed in the next few steps. And today will be mildly satisfying for my ADHD because we're gonna touch a lot of different things. So first thing is we're gonna go ahead and get the knock sensors thrown in. Pretty simple deal. I went ahead with my tuner Bo Woody, went with his suggestion on if it's got a sensor going to it or a electrical wire going to it, you need to get GM shit. So we got the GM knock sensors. We're gonna put those in. We're going to run a little silicone on our plug to help keep moisture out of there so we don't have to deal with them being rusty in the future if we ever need to get back in there. And then we're going to do a new cam sensor. We're going to do a new crank sensor. And then I was going to prime the engine today with oil, but I needed to order a couple things, and I watched a really cool video. Whenever I do that one, I'll link y'all in the description to his video. But basically you can prime this engine with, I ordered, it was $24 worth of stuff, and you can literally completely pressurize and oil the entire engine without having to run it. And with this one sitting for at least 4 years since we've had it, and then who knows how long that van sat in a junkyard or whatever, we'll have a really good shot at completely lubricating all of our bearings and all the oil galleys and all that stuff before we fire the engine up, which I feel like is going to be pretty smart thing to do this time. But we got to do that another time. I'm going to take a pipe cleaner to these fuel lines and try to get the rest of that dirt dauber remnant shit out. And then I was going to siphon the gas tank out, but I ordered a hose for that. So we'll do that another time. I have my breaker that I need to install on my main power cable that comes from the battery up front. I realized that I never had any sort of protection on that, and that is not smart, because any bit of this power cable that went right here in this wheel well, something could have flew up off the tire and hit that. Or it could even vibrate and rub through anywhere on the frame. It's literally touching the frame. So you don't want a hot wire arcing to a grounded frame. That's going to start a fire. And without any kind of fuse or breaker or anything there to stop it, you're not safe. You're going to burn down. You're going to catch something on fire. You're going to melt that entire run of wire and catch something else on fire or whatever. And, you know, a lot of our project vehicles, not something that you have full coverage insurance on. So this thing goes up in flames, it's going to be entirely on me to fix it. And I'm telling y'all where I'm at with it right now, I'm about tired of redoing and going back and messing with it. We're dicking with another motor again, all that. I'm about at my wit's end with this project, but hopefully getting it running and back on the road is going to help relight that fire and help me enjoy it some more. But anyways, got my bro James with us today. Little bro time. We're enjoying the holiday, Indigenous Peoples Day, Columbus Day. And so I've got a hand in here today. I'm going to take advantage of that. I also was going to clean the intake manifold, but that's going to be on another video because I thought this gallon was full and it's about right here. So that's not happening today, but that's okay. Yeah, so without further ado, I'm going to get the camera set up to time lapse. James is going to go ahead and throw in our knock sensors and shit for us, and then I am going to start working on getting some cables cut and figured out how I'm going to do this in my battery box. And then if we have time after that, I've got my oil pressure copper tubing, and I've got my wideband out. So I may or may not get to that today. If I do, cool. If I don't, we'll just get it another time. But yeah, here we go. Let's get it. Okay, so we got the knock sensors in and got them nice and sealed up. I put some silicone on the bottom of the boot when I put it down, a little bit smudged out, and then I put a little bit extra around the outside. I don't care how ugly this is, because it's about serviceability later on, not about how ugly it is. And there's a big old intake manifold that sits on top of this, so I don't really care that the orange is sticking out. It's not going to bother me. But yeah, so we got the knock sensors in and torqued down. We got the boots all sealed up. I forgot, I didn't get a cam sensor because I remember why now. It was a lot more expensive than this one, and this one's probably fine. And I have like 3 of them laying around here. So if one's bad or I need to buy a new one or whatever, I'll do that later on. It's not hard to change. But we did change our crank sensor, and we got it all torqued down and good to go. And we ran out of time. It is time to go pick our kid up for Mother's Day out, and we're gonna go to the park and play around. So I'm gonna pick this up another time. I did start cutting the breaker wiring. I used some dikes because I don't have aught gauge cutters, and it got kind of ugly. And I tried to massage it, and we tried and tried to get it into the breaker, and I just need to cut it clean. So I'm gonna order some aught gauge cutters, like some bolt cutter looking type deals, and we'll fix that up another day and run our, we'll just have a wiring day. We'll do that. We'll run our wideband, and we'll run our tubing, which is not really wiring, but we'll run our tubing in there to the dash to get our oil pressure gauge done. So for now, peace. Okay, what is up, y'all? It's been like 2 weeks since I was in here last, and a lot of shit has went on. We got through all our Halloween festivities and all that, and I finally made some time to get out here in the garage. So I left y'all off with the battery breaker install, and I got that done off camera. I just, you know, crimped it or cut it, stripped it, and added this in, and then I've got it kind of just so I'll have to finesse it once I get the battery in here, but that's what we're going for. And then that way we've got a nice little disconnect for whenever we want to kill power to the truck. There's been a couple instances where I needed to do that, and instead of unscrewing the lead off the battery, I can just do that. And also now I'm protected on this long run of 2-aught that comes from the battery all the way up the frame up here. I'd never had a breaker or a fuse or anything in that, so if that would have got nicked, we would have burned down. So I've also acquired some Amazon purchases. Got some oil, and got some tools from old Harbor Freighty. Got some nice fancy tools. But anyways, I have gotten organized and made a checklist and updated it. So what I want to do is I need to drain the fuel tank, which is what that clear hose is for. Need to clean the fuel lines for that dirt dauber shit that's in the right where it clips up to the engine. I'm going to reassemble the engine bay, so all the wiring and harnesses and all that, I'm going to put all that back together. I'm not going to paint the bay. I'm not going to wait on that. I can do that later on. And I just want to get the truck together, so we're going to do that. Then I'm going to prime the engine with oil. That's what that bug sprayer is for. I'm going to show you all a cool trick on that. And then I'm going to clean the intake manifold, get all the sludge and carbon out of it, install the oil pressure sensor and wideband gauge, and then we can get the engine in, and then we can get the harness and accessories on the engine, get the radiator in, fill it up with coolant, and then we should be ready to fire it up, as long as I don't remember some stuff along the way. All of that probably won't be in this one video, but I'm going to kind of pick one thing and then start. I can definitely get this going. So I got this big tote, and I'm going to put 1 gallon of super clean in it and then fill it up with water just enough so it's submerged, and we're going to let that sit for a few hours. And then I'm going to get like a bottle brush and a pipe cleaner, and we're going to clean that turkey out, and try to knock every bit of a oily sludge out of there that we can. And then probably going to try to tackle our oil pressure gauge and maybe the wideband, maybe not, and then get the fuel lines cleaned out, and then maybe the tank drained, and that'll probably be it for this video. It's kind of why I made that list. I'm super scatterbrained, and I'll try to do 10 things at one time and get all of them a quarter of the way done. So I need to like prioritize and attack each thing and mark it off the list. So that's what I'm gonna do. So a lot of this is gonna be time lapse, especially like when I'm buttoning all this up. But nonetheless, you guys will see the progress being done. And by all means, don't be afraid to drop a comment below and ask a question on any part of the process that you were kind of curious about what I was doing. And yeah, so let's get going. Okay, so I got my wiring reattached to the engine bay. I put the little vent back on. Got the main power wire secured, my fan relay wires and relays and all that set back up. I'm leaving this out for now until we get the engine in. Then we'll drape all that stuff where it needs to go. And then I got my copper line ran for my oil pressure gauge. And then I got my main fuse box and all that set back up here, tightened up the main power connection. Let me... Oh. Yeah, we got it stubbed out right here. Gave myself a little extra just in case I needed to move it. However, my end goal is to get the double din dash kit and then see how much free room I got left where the HVAC controls would be, and then either have somebody 3D print me something or make something of my own for my fuel gauge, my oil pressure gauge, and my wideband to all sit up here. But that's to occur at a later time. I just tried to siphon the fuel tank and that did not work. I think because the little hose I was sticking in there was like stopping, and I think that was right where the fuel filler hose like 90s down into the gas tank. I just couldn't get that hose to go past that. So the end of the hose wasn't even getting wet with fuel, so I don't think that I can get it down in there. So what I'm going to do is wait until we power up the truck, and I'm going to see what the fuel level says on the gauge, and if it's below like a quarter or so, then I'll just put fresh gas on top of that. And if it's like pretty full, like a half tank or so, then I'll just jump the fuel pump fuse, the fuel pump relay, and I'll just pump fuel out of the fuel lines into a bucket or something, gas tank, whatever. We'll try to get the gas real low to get that old gas out of there and see what we can do from there. Other than that, it's been a couple hours, so let's take these brushes and gloves and go out there to the intake manifold and see if we can't scrub a little gunk off. Okay, so what is right here up against the intake inlets that go to the head, that stuff's, it's kind of gummy, but it's still pretty hard. So not sure. Not sure if we need to let her soak overnight or something. Maybe. I don't have a way to put hot water in here, so unless I just like boiled pots of water or something. Yeah, that's not really doing much. I mean, you can see some dirt coming off on the brush, but it's not really working. So I might just kind of scrub every hole a little bit and then just, you know, take what that gives me and move on, because eventually I want to get a nicer intake manifold, like maybe the BTR one, or probably not a Holley high ram, but some kind of nicer intake. So I might just get this one as nice as I can and then just move on. Okay. Got our 2nd gallon of super clean up in there. I'm just gonna run a little bit of water in there to kind of stir it up. Nice and frothy. Okay, so we got that all frothened up with a 2nd gallon in there. And I mean, you can see it was getting dirty. It just wasn't pulling that good stuff that was caked like in the intake runners right where they meet the head right there. That stuff, like I had to like put some heavy pressure on it with my fingernail to even get any of that. So I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, that super clean's only like 10 or 11 bucks a gallon, so put a 2nd gallon in there. We'll let it sit overnight. And then I will, don't want to get copyrighted now. See how that is. But anyways, couldn't siphon the fuel tank out. Got the copper line ran for the oil pressure gauge, so that was a big feat. I thought that was going to be a lot harder than it was, and that copper line is actually really easy to manipulate and bend without like putting a kink in it, so that was awesome. Something went smooth for once. And then I got like the harness unwrapped because I had it wrapped up when I washed all this stuff, and I draped it up there. We'll maybe do something different once we actually get to lowering the engine in here. I know I'm gonna have to jack up the truck and get a floor jack under the transmission because it's just held on by those ratchet straps right now. I should have pulled the transmission, but I'm a dumbass and I didn't, so I'm trying to think. Let's go check our list. Let's go see what our list looks like. See what we accomplished. Alright, we reassembled the bay. We did that. We cleaned the fuel lines out. We did not get to drain the fuel tank. I'm going to put check level with power on. And then we're in the process of cleaning the intake manifold. Install the oil pressure sensor and wideband. We got the copper line ran. What I'm gonna do also, a side note on that, that's about all we did. So we got a little bit done. We got a couple things done and a couple things started. That's pretty good for me. Let me get my light. Another thing that's kind of something I should have done back then, but I didn't, was the feed for this cord, which charged the tablet. I fed it off of the old cigarette lighter. I cut the other one. There was 2. I cut the other one off and butted into that. That's constant power. So this plug is always hot, so I had to remember, if I had the truck off for, you know, a couple days of the weekend or whatever, I had to remember to unplug that USB cord, and I didn't like that. So another problem I have is I fed the fuel gauge is powered off of the radio wiring, and then I'm going to need to power the wideband. So I have this other plug open that I can do that with. But I think what I'm going to actually do is I have some relay pigtails. I think I'm actually going to power all this stuff with a, I'll just call it like the gauges relay. And I'm going to wire in a relay so that it's only hot when the key's on. Because I don't know, something about all that stuff being, well, for one, the gauges being constant on, that's not going to help. It's just going to drain the battery and fry the shit faster, especially the wideband. That's going to fry that sensor. So I need to wire in a relay, which, like I said, I have a couple bundles of like 5 packs of relays. So I'm going to do a little research and figure out how exactly I want to do that. If I can just run it all off of one relay, or if I should do like 2. To get some accessory power added in here, because like I said, I'm going to try to do like a gauge pod setup down here, and it needs to be switch powered, period. That was kind of a lazy thing I did earlier. I just kind of made shit work, and eventually I'm going to have a radio in here, so I'm going to need that power back, and I don't want to draw everything off of that and get consistent power, or get weird power signal from the radio or something, a voltage fluctuation, and, you know, fry the sensor in the sending unit or whatever could happen. I need to have independent power up here, and that was something I never did, you know, back when we set this up originally. So that's something that I need to do. And then, yeah, I think that's about it for today's video, because I'm kind of rambling and I'm at a little stopping point, and I have that fatherly guilt setting in, that husband guilt right now that I feel. I just feel like I need to get back in the house because I've been out here too long. And we got some shit accomplished, so that's cool. I am off work tomorrow is Veterans Day. Thank you to all our veterans who have served and afforded us the gift of a free country and the opportunity as a federal employee to have the day off tomorrow. That's about as far into politics as I'm going to get. But yeah, other plans for the next video that you guys will see, we're going to show you how to prime an LS engine completely. So for the OGs that stayed tuned in this long, there's a little adapter that you can get, and it doesn't say the size thread on there, but I'll post it in that video. But basically, you take this little fitting and you undo this plug, and some of them will show you to do it just with a hose, and all that does is fill up the oil pump. It doesn't actually prime the engine. So we'll undo that, put this plug in, and then we'll hook up our bug sprayer. I'll show you how to do that. You basically just clip the end off of it that has the nozzle, and then just do like a hose clamp and set it up to this barb. And then we will fill that up with oil, pump it up, and pull the trigger. And when we pull the trigger, it's going to shoot oil into the engine. We'll pull the valve covers back off, and then basically we're going to go until we see oil coming out of every single push rod. And then once we get that, we know that we have completely primed the entire block, lifters and all. And that's probably your best safeguard, to, especially this one that's been sitting for a few years and it's probably dry. So another thing I thought of is once I prime it, I'm going to probably drain. I'm going to pull the drain plug on the pan, whatever oil I prime the block with, I'm going to drain that back out of it and see how dirty it is, see how much muck we pushed out of the block. Because I think there's at least going to be dust in there, if not some little nasty speckly shit that we don't want in there. So we'll just check, get all that pushed out, and then leave it empty, obviously. And then other than that, we'll be pretty much ready to drop the engine in, because we did everything else that I need to do outside of the truck. So then we can get the engine dropped in, get everything bolted up, get the harness on, get the intake on, get the coil packs on, injectors, fuel rail, all that, and then we'll be ready to fire it up. So we're getting really close. Hopefully this old 6.0 that we've been sitting on for a few years for old Chris is worth a damn for us. We're finna see. I have a lot of faith in the research that I did. If you'll remember, the 5.3 popped when we were chasing a lean issue, and one big thing that I found was, this is the little reference line to your fuel regulator. On your fuel rails that have a return on them, this little vacuum line goes right here on this regulator, and it takes vacuum to tell that little diaphragm how far in or out to pull pressure into the block, or pressure up to the engine to put through the injectors. And by that little split in there, I probably had a vacuum leak, which vacuum leaks will make you go lean. And also, if it wasn't given the right vacuum on that little diaphragm and the pressure regulator, the injectors weren't getting the right pressure, which makes sense because when Bo, rest his soul, was trying to help me figure this out right before the engine popped, he was commanding different levels of fuel to the injectors, like trying to give it a bunch more fuel, and it wasn't responding to it. So that kind of leads me to think that was a problem more and more. But we'll have to wait till we get her slapped together to see. I did pick up a new AC Delco vacuum line so that we can give that a try, and I picked up a new regulator so we can take that one out and go ahead and throw a new fresh diaphragm in there. Maybe it got some gunk or dirt or something in there. Who knows? But anyways, I'm rambling. Y'all stay tuned. We're getting really freaking close to firing this thing up and driving it, and getting back on track to get y'all some steady content on. Once the truck's running, then we can start doing cool stuff to it again. So thank y'all for sticking around all these years. Thank you guys for tuning in every video, and for all of you that watched all the way to this point, thank you so much. Please drop a comment. Please like the video, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. That would help me out a ton, because 93% of my viewers, and I've linked it to a lot of the how-to videos, are not subscribed. So if you guys could subscribe and engage a little bit, leave some comments and likes, that would help the channel tenfold. Other than that, peace out, be human, and we'll see you on the next one.